James Wilson.
He also explains that Christianity is part of the common law and the basis of law in America, that you cannot separate the two in America. Law and Christianity go hand in hand.
As I'm looking through Wilson's work, somebody put this here for a reason, probably one of the interns. Under the Roman Commonwealth, what year was this written, David?
The publication was in 1801. The lectures were given in 1790 and 91.
Under the Roman Commonwealth, no citizen of Rome was likely to suffer a capital punishment by the sentence of the law. But at Rome, the son held his life by the tenure of his father's pleasure. In the forum, the senate, or in the camp, the adult son of a Roman citizen enjoyed the public and private rights of a person in his father's house. He was a mere thing, confounded by the laws with the cattle whom the capricious master might alienate or destroy without being responsible to any tribunal on earth. He's talking as he's beginning to make a case. You know what he's making a case for?
Mm-hmm.
What?
It would be the attainder, Bill of Attainder in the Constitution, where you can't punish the family for the sins of the fathers or the sins of the son. Everybody stands on their own 2 feet, which is the biblical verse that God used with his people. Said, no. He said, the soul that sins, it will die. You don't punish the fathers for the sins of the children and the children for the sins of the fathers. And that's what Great Britain did, was that Roman thing. And we came along, the Constitution said no bills of attainder, which is you can't attaint the whole family for what one does. And so that's the argument there.
Thank God. Okay, so what do we have?
Well, we had looked last week about the war crimes that were happening in Poland. So we went through this paper. But what we didn't talk about is what happened to the guys who did the war crimes. And for example, in Auschwitz, of the 1.1, 1.2 that were murdered there, only 85% of those at Auschwitz ever came to trial. So most of them got away with not being executed. But this happens to be a set of notes of one of the guys who did go to trial. And in here, they have the interviewer talking to them and going through, and these are all the handwritten notes during the interview that they have. And as you go through and see this, 500 out of the 5,000 were not gassed. So there's a group of 5,000 and 500 were not gassed. So it's going through and talking very openly about what they did. It then went into type form from that. You see the type part here. Are you a Pole? I'm a Jewish Pole. Are you a doctor of medicine? Yes. And so it goes through all the stuff that happened here. So this is what we use in trial. Now what's interesting is if you look at the trial, see where he's arrested?
Well, it says 4th of August, 1943.
So he's arrested even while this stuff is, before it's actually come to fruition. This is during the stuff. So they're already finding these guys, interviewing them, finding out what's going on. And so this is in Poland. And so here's actual, I mean, there's just not much of this left anywhere in the world where you have the actuals, but these are the actuals of part of the stuff that was happening with the war crimes there in Poland. And of course, this is the famous picture of the war crime trials at Nuremberg, but they went on across the world, literally. You had so many people tried, but again, only 85% of those in Auschwitz never got brought to trial at all. Now, this is the European theater, and this is what happened in Europe. On the other side, you have the Pacific theater, and the Pacific theater, one of the people involved in that from the very start was this guy right here. Matter of fact, this guy, if you've seen Tora, Tora, Tora.
This is the version with Barack Obama.
Yeah, that's right.
He does kind of look like him, doesn't he?
That would work, wouldn't it?
It does. He kind of looks like Barack Obama. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
That's what I'm here for.
Well, this came out in 1980, and he's the commander of all the forces that attacked Pearl Harbor. So he's the leader of the forces, and so you see him here. There he is as leader of all the forces. The Jap Zeros, etc. Here he is again with his plane. So this is what was happening. But what's here's the actual attack on Pearl Harbor, which is amazing. You have a Jap Zero and a flag, American flag, together. I mean, flying together on this thing. And so he's the guy who led that surprise attack. Now, from his standpoint, politically, his guys were already supposed to have declared war. And so they haven't declared war, so he doesn't know that this is a treacherous attack. He thinks they're attacking after they've declared war, but he's a military guy, not a political guy. What's interesting is this guy comes back into American focus after the war because he actually becomes a Christian and comes back and does all sorts of religious work in the United States. Here's a really early picture of him with a guy that we kind of recognize, Billy Graham. Here is his story signed by him, and the changes made, and even the gospel tracts that were made of him at the time. So you see the same picture, but now it's what a turnaround. And so, you know, he was not a war criminal as such. He was a military guy who was attacking what he thought was after war had been declared. And this is actually the photograph of the guy who got a photograph with him at a meeting and got him to sign this book at a meeting. So it's the story of how the two came to be.
It's really remarkable.
It is, and you know, we become good friends with him afterwards because of the spiritual bond that's there, even though we were enemies in war. One other one, I think you may recognize the guys in this one. Recognize any of those guys?
Oh, yeah. So that's Harry Truman, and that's the guy who is from the Mel Gibson movie. I mean, the real guy.
Yeah, that's it.
The real hero from, what was that movie?
Desmond Doss.
Desmond
Hacksaw
Doss.
Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge, yeah.
Not Mel
I
Gibson.
could have.
But
Could have cheated. I didn't even.
Clint
see
Eastwood.
it.
Clint Eastwood movie.
No.
Was it
That's
Mel Gibson? Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Did Clint direct it?
Nope. Mel did.
I thought Clint did that movie.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hacksaw
It was
Ridge?
Forgiven, Not Unforgiven.
Oh, is that what it was?
So-
Forgiven not.
Yeah.
Spiritual battle.
Right.
See the pop guy over here. He's
Yeah,
got
no.
all the pop stuff right. So
Had you heard of him before?
I had never heard of him till the movie came out.
I could not believe that story has sat on the shelf
Yeah.
for so long.
Yeah.
But part of it is because he was so humble. He
What-
just didn't.
He's the Alvin York of World War
Yeah,
II.
yeah.
Alvin York in World War I. You know, I know that story because it came out as a movie. Gary Cooper, Hollywood, Academy Award winner. I had never heard that story. That was
Amazing.
brand new.
Amazing. And if you haven't seen it yet, you should go see it. It's very violent, but it is very powerful. I mean, it's you know, kids are used to the video games, and they watch anything and it doesn't bother them. Rafe and I went to see that as father and son, and when that opening scene with war, he sat back and he grabbed my arm like this and he looked at me and I said, "This isn't a movie, son. This is what war is like." He changed in that movie.
Wow.
He changed. He had a different countenance after he left that movie.
Yeah.
He became a little more serious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing story.